The world's foremost MMA promotion, UFC is well known for always putting together entertaining fights. However, not all of these super fights have made it to reality. How do fans and fighters feel about these lost matchups? What impact would the fight have had on the MMA world? Join us in today's video examining insane fights that never happened. 10. Shogun Rua versus Rashad Evans. On May 8, 2010, Shogun Rua knocked out Lyoto Machida in the first round to become the light heavyweight champion. In the Brazilian's first title defense, he was set against Rashad Evans at UFC 128. Evans and Shogun Rua were a force to reckon with in the division, making the fight garner a lot of attention from fans. Evans had exceptional striking skills, while Rua was a Muay Thai specialist. When Evans withdrew from the fight because of an injury, the bout was again fixed on April 16, 2016 for the UFC on Fox 19. Sadly, the Brazilian stepped down, choosing the UFC 198 fight instead. 9. Dominick Cruz versus Renan Barão. The battle between Dominick Cruz and Renan Barão would have been massive for both the box office and television audience. However, Cruz's persistent injuries deprived fans of this rare bantamweight championship fight. Cruz was the reigning champion at that time, and he had successfully defended his title twice. Cruz was then scheduled to feature on The Ultimate Fighter as a coach against Urijah Faber. Unfortunately, he suffered an ACL tear, leading to 2 surgeries. Meanwhile, Renan Barão was also swiftly ascending in the bantamweight division. Barão secured the interim belt and even went on to defend it twice before Cruz was prepared to make his return. It was the time everyone, including Barão, had been waiting for. The Cruz versus Barão's fight was set to be held at UFC 169. However, Cruz's series of injuries lingered, and just 1 month before the event, he tore his groin. Consequently, he relinquished his belt, and the anticipated matchup never materialized. 8. Robert Whittaker versus Luke Rockhold. The showdown between Robert Whittaker and Luke Rockhold would have been epic. They were among the top 3 middleweights in the UFC. Whittaker was coming in as the undisputed champion with an 8-fight win streak. At the same time, Rockhold was a former UFC middleweight champion. Whittaker later had to withdraw because he didn't receive proper treatment for a stomach staph infection. Yoel Romero stepped in, knocking out Rockhold. Despite this, Whittaker remains a top 3 middleweight, while Rockhold is no longer in the UFC. Rockhold's most recent fight was a bare-knuckle boxing match in April 2023, where he lost to Mike Perry at BKFC 41 via technical knockout. 7. Junior Dos Santos versus Brock Lesnar. Fans often look forward to the fight between the coaches of any season of The Ultimate Fighter. So it was pretty disheartening when Junior Dos Santos and Brock Lesnar from season 13 never faced each other again, especially after the prolonged build-up. Back then, the Dos matchup was among the most significant fights the UFC could arrange. It gained more attention when they were featured on the UFC show. Lesnar used to be the definition of a ground-and-pound strategist when he was in the cage. No one shot as fast and hard as he did. His speed and intensity when it came to takedowns were unrivaled. However, Lesnar had to withdraw due to lingering diverticulitis, leading to Shane Carwin stepping in as his replacement. 6. Jon Jones versus Anthony Johnson. The light heavyweight title clash between Jon Jones and Anthony Johnson had MMA fans eagerly anticipating. The 2 fighters involved were known for their unique skills, which caused much debate. Johnson was considered one of the biggest punchers on earth, with a significant weight advantage, tremendous athleticism, solid punching fundamentals, and a track record of completely wrecking trained human beings with massive gloves on. Even with this record, his chances of defeating Jones were small. Jones is arguably the greatest mixed martial artist in the history of modern MMA. He could easily pulverize Anthony with vicious ground and pound mixed in with well-punctuated and executed elbows. Unfortunately, the former champion, Jon Jones, faced trouble after being implicated in a hit-and-run incident, resulting in him being stripped of the belt and suspended. This unexpected turn of events meant the light heavyweight showdown never saw the light of day. 5. Jose Aldo versus Anthony Pettis. Jose Aldo had just finished defending his featherweight title against Frankie Edgar. When the UFC offered to give Anthony Pettis a chance at gold, at this time, Pettis was a top lightweight contender. So he had to move to 145 pounds for the big fight against Aldo. It was like a dream come true for Pettis. Earlier on, he had expressed his desire to win the featherweight title. It was as if the UFC were eager to bring his heart desires to pass. According to Pettis' manager, it was a fight for the fans. Pettis enjoyed taking up new challenges. That was how he saw this fight. However, Pettis had to withdraw from the fight due to a severe knee injury, and the much-anticipated match never materialized. 4. Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Cormier. Although the Lesnar versus Cormier heavyweight title clash was never officially stated, definite plans were in motion. Immediately after Cormier's victory at UFC 226 to secure the heavyweight championship, he called out Lesnar for his next fight. Lesnar was famous for wrestling, while DC had one of the highest fight IQs. The fight between the two would have been among the most watched UFC events in history, but it never came to pass. Lesnar opted for retirement a few months later, rendering the post-fight antics at UFC 226 fruitless. 3. Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier. This differs from all other fights we have mentioned because the buildup was primarily online. Diaz and Poirier would pick on each other on Twitter, making fans to expect their meeting in the octagon. The pair were first set to fight at the UFC 230 in 2018. However, terms could not be agreed. Another date was fixed for Diaz and Poirier to meet 3 years later. The prospect of this matchup happening seems increasingly dim. Both fighters persistently accuse each other of avoiding the bout, and the narrative continues without resolution. The potential clash between these two highly entertaining UFC fighters would have been spectacular. Unfortunately, fate has different plans, and the matchup isn't in the cards. 2. Rafael dos Anjos versus Conor McGregor. Towards the close of 2015, Rafael dos Anjos and Conor McGregor stood as the top fighters in their weight classes. Anjos held the UFC lightweight championship, while McGregor was the featherweight champion. McGregor then shocked everyone when he announced his move to challenge Dos Anjos for the lightweight title in March 2016. The fight was scheduled for UFC 196, and it promised to be one of a kind. Dos Anjos later pulled out of the bout and was replaced by Nick Diaz. The Brazilian lost his belt in the summer of 2016, and a match between the two was never considered again. 1. Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson. Within 5 years, the fight between Nurmagomedov and Ferguson was announced 5 times, but they have yet to come to fruition. It was the most talked about lightweight title bout in UFC history. The issues varied from injuries to challenges with visas. Nurmagomedov has since retired, and Ferguson is no longer regarded as a top lightweight contender. This is the best time to let go of any hope of seeing these two in the octagon. Which of these fights have you not lost hope for? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.